Hello and welcome everyone to the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes. I am a leading transition and lifestyle coach, and I'm really excited to welcome our special guest today, Trudi, is joining us today, and I just know that we're going to have an amazing conversation about the reasons why she left the corporate world, but in particular about burnout and just the impact that can have. So welcome, Trudi. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited. I just know that the last couple of chats that we've had together, we've had the best conversation. So I'm really excited that we can, share knowledge and expertise with everybody around the world that's joining us today.
My absolute pleasure to be here.
So why don't you start by just telling everyone a bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and then we can sort of like go in from, how you left the corporate world to sort of lead to where you are right now.
Great. Leaving corporate land was a combination of burnout, exhaustion, and going, I want to create more meaning in my life. So now I run this is the third iteration of my business. I trade under the Global Sparkles brand now, but now I work with women to unlock their hidden value system that really allows them to be 100% internally motivated to create what they want in their lives. And that was the thing that always drove me in my career anyway, is helping people find their meaning. So yeah, that's what I do now. Love it.
Oh, I love it. And I love the fact that, to try and really find your meaning now, because I think sometimes when you're in corporate, one of my big things that I work with clients is that you're so identified with your corporate title. So when you leave, it's about, well, who am I? What do I have to offer? But really what's going to light you up, leaving and going out by yourself, because it's actually can be quite a traumatic sort of experience as well, because you sort of had this sort of safety net around you, then all of a sudden you're just there by yourself, and it's quite confronting.
Well, in leaving retail, I'd been made redundant and I was absolutely exhausted. I discovered personal development in the previous 4 months before I finally was just like, I'm done. So there was that whole personal development dream of go out and find your purpose and magic. And I was exhausted, and it didn't actually feel like an option at the time to go back to a senior management role. And it's just really interesting how everything sort of rolled out at that time in my life. Yeah. So, yeah.
And we talked a little bit last time about burnout, and I mean, I definitely understand the impact that has. When you're working in corporate, you tend to put yourself, I think also in general life, that you put yourself right down the bottom of the totem pole. But what impact did that have on you? And, was that part of your decision to actually leave corporate as well?
Well, I was in senior management roles in retail. So I was on the ground, in the stores, in amongst the numbers, in the office. I was, across all of it, traveling to different states. And you mentioned something, sort of, my role became my identity, and there was this supercharge of I suppose I would have been called an A-type personality. So there was that supercharge of, I have to be the best. My stores have to be the best. They have to look the best. They have to make the most money. We have to keep our wages down. So not only was I managing the role from a senior management role, but I was being in the store. I was being a team member. And there's a lot of pressure in any corporate role. And I did not identify and understand the importance of getting a good night's sleep, eating well, and especially any retailers out there are definitely going to understand, if you're going from store to store to store, you buy KFC or something quick and easy to eat while you're driving in the car, and you actually don't rest, you don't stop. You're up at 6:30 in the morning checking the phone, 7:30 at night calling through figures. And I was younger back then and I thought I was invincible. And it got to the point that even though I always loved my work with my teams and my people, the pressure and the non-stop, which was the expectation of the role, that you lived and breathed it, my body just couldn't keep going anymore. And by the time I'd finished my last role, I was a state manager, and I just had, the tank was empty. Yeah. And it was really impacting my performance, and I still wanted to do good, but there was just nothing left there. So yeah, it's a real danger for everyone, because, you know, especially in this day and age where there's so much offshoring and, you know, there's so much pressure to perform so you can keep your job. And I think you might understand, and I'm sure there'll be listeners that'll be going, oh yeah, you feel like you're doing the work of 3 people and you're not being paid to do the work of 3 people. It's such a different beast out there now, even more so, but it's no wonder we get exhausted.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But how do you say, hang on, stop, I'm tired here, I need to look after me, to the corporate machine?
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes we see it as a bit of a sign of weakness when we actually start to sort of feel that we might be underperforming, because we're constantly being on the go. But at some point in time, that your body is just going to go, you know what, you can't sustain that. And especially when you said you're not eating right, you're not sleeping enough, because you're not fueling your body right for you to be able to even maintain that. So even if you were just, you know, doing your normal 8 hours sort of thing, and you know going to
who does just 8 hours?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were just doing those 8 hours, but if you are fueling your body right, you can sustain a little bit longer. But there's also not just the physical aspect, it's the mental aspect as well, that, you know, it's sort of like there's like one part like bringing it out here, and then there's another part in your body like going, I'm drained. And so then there's sort of like a failure on both sort of levels as well. And
I know that from when because I've been out for 10 years now, and I know now there's, you know, they do a lot more wellness programs. There are improvements from my days, but I tell you what, if somebody had have said, hey, you know what, every lunch, go and meditate for 15 minutes, that alone could have been an absolute game changer for my stress management in my retail days.
Yeah. And I really think
it's those
that
small things you can do.
Oh, absolutely. As I was saying, like, there's things that we can really educate, because, you know, we've been in the trenches, we've understood what it's like. And then this, you know, as you've gone through stuff in life, that you can then pass down this knowledge. And one of it is that there are things that you can implement right now, that if you are still in the corporate world, that you can do to be able to just increase that sort of self-love and nurturing back to yourself, to be able to sustain it while you're thinking of your exit strategy, or whether or not you're thinking that it just may not be the right, you know, job for you. And, you know, people might think it's a little bit of woo-woo, but even just going out for a walk, you know, for 5 minutes, and just leave your phone, you know.
In some fresh air. There's a park nearby. Just go bare feet on the grass. Just reconnect with nature, because that was something, working in shopping centres, you just never had the chance to do.
Oh, that's right.
And you don't want to get to the point of burnout to have that as the reason you stop your corporate job. And I think that was a big problem that I had, because I'd gotten to the point where I didn't actually think I could do the job anymore because I was so tired. But that first 12 or 18 months of, you know, even starting a business, that itself was a struggle. So by the time I was really back up and functioning again, I burnt through my savings, and I hadn't been fast enough to implement a lot of things. So then that created a whole heap of stress in the work that I wanted to do with my business, and put a whole new level of pressure back on. And I think because we talked about, you know, talking about burnout and everything for the episode, for anyone who's listening, you know, if you are planning your escape, plan it well, plan your health now, plan your savings and your money and your exit strategy. Don't wait until you get to the point where you just you can't even get out of bed anymore,
Yeah.
because that's going to make your transition so much more challenging.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah. That's it, you know. And I think that, you know, you touched on such a really great point, is the exit strategy. And a lot of people think that it is just the finances, but I do believe that a lot of it is also the mind, body, and soul. And it is about you making sure that you're well, not only just physically, but also, you know, you've got the right mindset as well. And you know, you do have, you know, some sort of pathway that you want to follow. But we also need to be mindful that, and as you and I both know, that starting a business is not always easy either. And you might think that you're going to go down one pathway,
so
but you know, you take twists and turns. So we have to be learning to adapt to that. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that when you come from corporate, you're in such a big structure that when you go into business for yourself, there is a lot more freedom, and you sometimes are craving the structure with it. So do you have, you know, I mean, I know a little bit about your story, you know, obviously was starting out in business, but what would you say to somebody that is looking at their exit plan and they're starting to do it, but then they want to start a business themselves? Like, what sort of things should they be considering in that sort of process?
I would suggest, before you leave, find yourself a business strategist, find yourself a coach, find yourself somebody who can help you get very clear on who your ideal client is, what you want to start with as your service or product, can get you. The more you can get set up with your systems and your processes before you actually leave, the more seamless your transition will be. See, I left and I had nothing. I had I think I'd like to, I don't know, coach adults. That was my plan. That was it.
Yeah.
And I ended up working in the youth training industry for 5 years. But I didn't understand niching. I didn't understand marketing. I didn't understand how to actually attract people to buy my products and sign up for my services, because it hadn't been a component of my work in my corporate role. So being very aware that there is 99% chance there are going to be gaps in your education and experience, and starting to learn about those gaps, start plugging those holes before you even quit. And then start thinking, okay, I'm used to living on this level of income. And it was a massive shock to me to go from a 6-figure income, company car, petrol card, all of the perks, to living off my savings, and savings go very quickly. So I wish somebody had said to me, you need to start adjusting your lifestyle before you start your business.
Absolutely.
Not that I'd actually fully planned a business, but little things like that, nobody tells you.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, gung-ho, go out, tell everyone what you do.
Yeah.
Don't rely on your friends to buy your stuff either.
No. And I think one of the biggest things is that when you are, you know, thinking of leaving, and you have this idea that you know, want to start a business, or, you know, and it's not, maybe you even want to just change industries. You know, I've seen a lot that people are actually want to take a step back from the high paid, you know, pressure jobs, and just sort of go into something that's a little bit more, you know, lighter, and they can just, you know, go to work, come home, and, you know, they're done. They don't have that additional responsibility. But it's about nurturing yourself, knowing, you know, what you want, but also setting out what the outcome you want for yourself, and allowing that to really sink in, and not be influenced by friends and family and all that, because it's your life in the end. But it's also you have to.
If they haven't done it, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I do a lot of mindset work, and there's they call it a maladaptive schema. And what that is, there's 5 of them, but there's one called disloyalty and abandonment schema. And if you're going out against what everyone else in your family does to start a business, if they're all corporate and working and paid, you're going to hit potentially a mindset trigger that is going to undermine you, sabotage you. So this might sound a little awful, dear listeners. I would recommend that you don't talk too much about your plans with close family who are not doing the same thing. Yeah. It took my mother 8 years to stop asking me when I was going to go back and get a job. I love her. But they have an understanding of that is security, and that's what they've always done.
Yeah.
And if you're the black sheep going out being a little different, there are mindset triggers that can get fired off as well. They're just be aware, because your stuff will come up. Business brings up all of your emotional stuff that needs healing.
Absolutely. I feel like there's, as I've started to grow my business, the more triggers have come up, and I'm just like going, holy crap, I really need to work more on that, because you are the brand, you are the business. And when you're in corporate, you do get to hide behind not only just a job title, but you get to hide behind a logo, you get to hide behind a business name. But when you go into business for yourself, you're it. You're the brand, you're the product, you're the service. And you really do need to know who you are and really have a very clear idea of who you are, but really like who you are, like flaws and all. You know, where I took the word perfection out of my vocabulary a long time ago because it's so unattainable. But just to sort of know who you are in that sort of aspect, and, you know, do that sort of...
It's a good thing to start with the end in mind, reverse engineer where you want to be, set yourself some realistic numbers. And like you said, remember, like, business is, you can choose for it to be hard and there be struggle and sacrifice, or you can choose to look at it as a big adventure.
Yeah.
And, you know, it all is all in here in you. And that's why, honestly, get a coach, get support, get the right people around you as you transition and change over.
Yeah.
Ask an Uncle Rob's neighbour from down the road for business advice, unless he's got $1 million plus business.
That's right. Find your tribe is, I think, one of the biggest things. It took me a while to sort of work out the people that you need to be associated with, and as much as you love your family and friends and all of that, and they're there, you know, great support and everything like that, but when you find your tribe of people who are going through something similar to you, or who even been through it, and they can actually give you that helpful advice, that's when I started to really go, holy crap, I'm on the right pathway. It's okay that I've taken these twists and turns, because that's just natural part of not only healing, but also part of business with it as well. So I love the idea of finding your tribe.
But be willing to be flexible to get there. And I think that's a really good point, because we get very rigid and it's like, but I have to take these steps. And that's one of my biggest business regrets, is being crammed into a system and a process for 4 years that wasn't working, and the people around me were resisting any changes that I wanted to put in. So that's where it's really important to get the right people around you and be willing to fail forward, fail fast, get the data and go, do I keep it? Do I throw it away? What can I refine and improve on? Yeah. So business is getting ego to just be out the door. Ego out.
And it is a constant learning process. And I mean, you'll learn more about yourself, you'll learn more about people around you, and you'll also learn more about the people that you want to serve as well, and really getting to know, you know, what you're offering and the outcome that it's going to achieve for that for those people as well.
Yeah.
And I love it that you also said, you know, you talked about, you know, very much processes in the corporate sort of world, and that was very much in my industry as well, because it was semi-government, so lots of, you know, paperwork and red tape and all that sort of stuff that you had to follow. But when you come out, it was fun, but when you come out and you start a business for yourself, like, what sort of processes, like, to sort of keep some sort of structure into it, whether it's a structuring your day or structuring your business, what would you recommend for people?
Okay, I've worked with a lot of women starting their businesses, and, you know, give yourself a week or two off, have some time off, but then a lot of people, discipline falls out the window. And we all know, however long amount of time you give a task to be achieved, you will fill the task with all of that time. So set yourself some office hours. To really help me get back into office hours habit, I had work clothes that I would wear in the morning that triggered my mind. Now is work time.
Yes.
Do the work, take off the dress. Then I could have my afternoon time back to myself to do what I wanted to do. And it depends on your business. Get your payment systems set up. They are so important. Get booking systems set up wherever you can automate your business. So it's because I got trained that you know, you need to talk to every single person on the phone, and you systemize booking systems for calls and client sessions. Look for ways that, and they don't have to be high cost, but look for ways to make it simple right from the start.
Yeah.
I took too long to adapt to online booking systems and, you know, collect people's emails as soon as you can. Like, start putting those things in place straight away instead of going, oh, yeah. So look for little automations and things that make it simple, and set yourself office hours.
Yeah.
I think are probably two really simple but really impactful tips that I can give there.
Yeah, I love the idea of having your office closed, because I think that, you know, it's just a simple visual thing, and it's like works on the mindset to say, I am in work mode. You know, it's the same like when you go to the gym, like you put your gym clothes on, you know, you're going to go work out. So I think that's just such a really great tip, because it's very easy. I mean, I had days where I was like, yeah, I'm sitting on the couch in my pajamas still, you know, but you're not really.
Can't do pajama days.
Oh.
I'm not effective at all in my pajamas. And I scheduled my whole coaching business around the fact that on Mondays I'm only on the phone, and I could stay in my pajamas, and I'm like, nah, I've got to get up, shower, dress. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Something doesn't switch on.
That's right. And I think it's such a great thing, because like I was sort of like, oh, I'll do a little bit of work here, doing a little bit of work there. But when I put in a schedule of going, I'm going to work certain hours, you know, that is when I knew that I was focused. And I actually got so much more done because I'd allocated that particular amount of time, opposed to just whatever came.
Parkinson's law? I think it's Parkinson's law that, you know, whatever time you allocate, you fill the time. So that's where, for a lot of people, you can go, I've got 5 things to do on the list, but if you don't allocate the time, 12 hours later, they're still not all done because you've ended up scrolling on Facebook for half the time. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say has been one of your sort of biggest learning lessons of, you know, making the transition from, you know, being in corporate to, you know, finding, you know, yourself, and also, you know, your business as well?
Okay, the transition lesson would be, like I've already mentioned, mine wasn't planned. And so it's more, if I could go back and do it again or advise anyone, it'd be, make sure you start being very aware and implementing potential lifestyle changes before you quit. Make sure you have ample savings, and understand what you need to know before you start, because I was flying by the seat of my pants the first 18 months. And professionally, I suppose, business-wise, don't get too caught up in a model if it's not working. Allow yourself to have flexibility in what you do. And if it's not working or you're really hating it, I know people that have set up a business, learned some skills and gone, this is the thing that I'm doing. 3 years later, they're still doing it. They're frustrated. It's not working. And they're so rigid in the approach, they'd be better off going back and getting a job again, because they're they're financially struggling. So learning to trust your intuition in business is a big thing, because there'll be a lot of people out there saying, no, you have to do it this way. My model works. And not all of them are going to have your best interests at heart. So trust yourself as well.
Yeah. And I think I love the fact that, you're saying obviously get that sort of, mental and sort of physical aspect right first, because you can do that even when you're in corporate, because if you have that set up, it really allows you to have a great sort of foundation when you do leave, because you're physically fit, but you're also mentally, ready for all the different challenges that you're going to be facing as well. I was just something came up and it's just totally slipped my mind then. But the other thing that you did actually mention before is going and being flexible, because we can be quite rigid, especially in corporate. And allowing it. Do you think there's like a particular time frame that somebody, if they're going down one sort of business avenue, or they're doing one process, do they stick with it for a week or two, 3 months, 6 months? I know that's going to be quite individualized, but is there some sort of line for somebody?
I don't know if there's absolutes. I can speak from my own experience. My first business, we were running youth games, and we were pushing and pushing to get in schools. And it was hard work, and the funding, and look, it would take a year for a school to be able to say, yes, we can pay for you to come and run your program.
Yeah.
And I had said to my former business partner, I had said, we should be promoting this direct to parents. And he was no.
Yeah.
And then we met a coach who said, you should promote this direct to parents. So the inspiration and the ideas will show up. And for you being the leader in your business, it's going to be up to you to drive them, because people around you are potentially going to resist change. So if something is not working and you're going, I've tested it, yeah, I've got the data, I've done the same thing 3 times, this is the response I've got, I've refined it. And this is where it's really important to track your processes and the actions that you take, so you can actually look back and go, I've cold called 100 schools. 6 have signed up. This is not an effective way to get people to sign up to my stuff. Yep. What's a different way I can do it? Or do I need to look at a different market?
Yep.
So often it's not what you have to do, it's who you're approaching, how you're approaching. And I suppose the urgency then comes into you. How hard do you want to work it? How much do you want to push it? And how willing are you to experiment?
Yeah. Look, I absolutely love everything that you've said today, because I think from putting, some really practical steps in place, first of all, that they can, control, so that they've got these great foundations before they even leave the corporate, but then also giving them some great, sort of strategies, for when they do leave, and having those processes in place. I think that, people watching this are just going to be able to go, okay, I've got some really, really great steps to follow, and just to sort of, trust themselves a little bit more, and to know that, and find your tribe. I think actually finding your tribe, what you said, people around you that, are going to be there supporting you, and it's not always going to be your friends and family, is really, important. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, my family, I love my family. They love me. They think I'm crazy that I'm still doing this business thing. But especially when you're starting out, you really need to be careful who's in your ear, because it can make or break you. It really can.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I want to say a big thank you for coming on today and really sharing your insight and knowledge to everybody. And I just know that we're probably going to have multiple conversations together that we can really help inspire and empower so many people who are leaving the corporate world. So thank you so much for coming today, and sharing your knowledge. Absolutely love it. I will have all the details of how you can get in contact with Trudi below, and if reach out to her if you are thinking of leaving the corporate world and want somebody to be able to help you build your business. I can definitely know that she is truly amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us today on this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes. And as I said, I'm a leading transition and lifestyle coach. So I'm here to help you go from your corporate mess to your empowered best. So love and light to you all, and we'll see you next week.